Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the Leeds View for this week's podcast. The international break is grinding to a halt as we get ready to come out of this. We've survived the first one. There's two more before Christmas. We've survived this one at least, mostly without injury. There are some topics and talking points we probably need to get to over the course of tonight, and we will do. I'm delighted to be joined by that man over there, Paul Brooker, who is joining me from the Leeds Therapy to have a little bit of a chat. If there's a bit of a lag on my voice or my mouth, don't worry about it too much. Brand new camera. We haven't got it synced up necessarily perfectly yet, but we've done everything we can possibly do. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, delighted to be joined by Paul. We'll check in with Paul first, see how he's doing before we get into team news, and then we're going to focus on the next 3 Leeds United games. Also, Paul's details will be down below if you want to go over and support Paul on his channel as well. Paul, mate, how are you doing?
Good. I'm really, really good. I can still smell the barbecue sauce from my tea, so try to hide. It's there. Try to hide it behind the camera
because I get it all noticed.
Well, I pointed it out now. That's the cardinal sin. No, but other than that, I'm good. Bored, absolutely bored, out of my mind. The international breaks can go take a long walk off of a short pier, as far as I'm concerned. From my point of view, watching England win, but left to right, left to right, left to right, backwards, left to right. It does me head in. Get me back into some real football. That's all I'm asking for now.
I would take it after just finishing a watch along, watching the Ireland against Armenia game, where Ireland got absolutely battered now against a team 105th in the world. So not great news for Ireland. But yeah, I was wondering, why don't I do watch alongs for Ireland matches more often? And I've done 2 of them in the last week. I'm like, well, that's why. That's why, because that was painful to watch. So yeah, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we're getting back to watching some proper football, but typical Leeds with injuries. We will get to the injuries as well. They're not all confirmed, so let's not lose the run of ourselves just yet. We'll wait till everybody gets in, so we won't cover the Lucas Perry story in too much detail for a little bit longer, but we'll leave your comments up on the screen while we're chatting as well, so you'll see your comments popping up there. And then every now and then we'll just dip in and dip out on the comments as well. So yeah, delighted everyone's joined us again. The international break is probably one of the hardest periods of time. The next 3 months for any content creator is really, really difficult. So if you do support content creators during this period of time, try and go out of your way to watch some of their content, because it's like YouTube just switches off the tap on the algorithm and all of a sudden there's nobody around to talk to anymore. So there is always news on this channel about Leeds United. We cover everything about Leeds. So any day you want to pop in and check some stuff, there's always some news worth checking out, and some interesting news in the last 2 weeks, to be fair. But yeah, we've got three major games coming up. We've got Fulham away, then we've got our way to Wolves, then we've got Bournemouth at home, and then we've got Spurs after that at home. So 2 away, 2 home in the next block of 4 before international football dons its dark shoulders over us again and casts a shadow onto our love of football, to watch the most mundane football you've ever seen in your life. But we'll persevere through that. There is some team news as well. We've got a little bit of stuff right now. None of this is confirmed at this point. We should just say that just to make sure everyone's aware. But Paul, on the players that have been out injured, you're the one that told me today about Tanaka and Ampadu. What's the story there?
So what I've heard, and again, it's to be officially confirmed properly, is that they are back fully fit and they will be ready for the Fulham game, which is absolutely fantastic news as far as I'm concerned. Just to beef up that midfield. Not that the midfield didn't put up a good show against Newcastle, but just to beef up the midfield a little bit more, just to, give more options for us. And having both Tanaka and Ampadu back will make a huge difference as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's confirmed. But it will make a massive, massive difference.
Yeah, we'll find out from Daniel Farke's press conference, which I believe is on Thursday this week, but it could be Wednesday. I think it's Thursday. Yeah. So we'll find out then. Thank you very much for the super chat, Tom. Really, really appreciate that. Keep the good work, MOT. Appreciate that. Appreciate everyone that's watching all of our content this week. There is another bit of a scare that's come out. And again, we're trying to clarify reports. There will be some content on the channel tomorrow from myself and Adam Pope from BBC. And Don't Go to Bed Just Yet. He's coming on to do kind of a season preview now. The window was closed and we know what we've got. Adam does that every year with us. He comes on at the start and he comes on at the end. So he's gone off to find out some information as well about the situation around Lucas Perry in goal. It appears unconfirmed. Have to state that. Unconfirmed reports that Lucas Perry has picked up an injury in training and will miss the trip to Fulham. There are varying accounts of what's happened from the ITK guys. Some are saying it's a significant injury and he will be out for some time. Others are saying it's not necessarily that significant. It could just be Fulham. We'll have to wait and see. The interesting conversation, Paul, on this has been the return of Ilan Meslier potentially to the Leeds United bench if Carl Darlow is to go and go. Darlow's not had a particularly great start to the season for national side or for Leeds, especially the Sheffield Wednesday game. but is probably trusted more than Ilan Meslier. And the interesting part about this, and I could be just taking 2 and 2 and smashing them together and getting 53, right? It's very, very, very possible what I'm about to say is incorrect. But Robbie Evans last week, when he did a sit down with the local media, made a very interesting comment where he said it was better for both parties for Ilan to stay with us. And at that point, I went, that doesn't make any sense. He's out of contract at the end of the season. He can negotiate a free transfer in January. He's 100% PSR profit. Even taking £1 million for him is a profit of a player you could lose for nothing come January. Unless Lucas Perry got injured last week. And we're only hearing about it now because of the international break. And then if that's the case, then that comment about Ilan Meslier staying with the squad probably makes more sense now because it didn't do it away. And it possibly is a reason why Leeds decided not to sell him come the end of the transfer window, because there was rumoured interest from Lorient and rumoured interest from Valencia, and he goes nowhere. The Turkish window is still open until 27. The Saudi window is still open as well. No talk of any moves there at all around Ilan Meslier. There was talk of him seeing out his contract, but now, to me, it appears that those comments may coincide with the injury to Lucas Perry. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, both you and I are cynical. We're over the age of 40, so that comes with being that old. It's and one of us is, I'm 45 this Friday as well. I will accept birthday cards, chocolates, all sorts of stuff if you want to send it to me. Absolutely fine. Yeah, I got wind of the news early this morning, very, very early this morning, saying that he was going to be out for an extended period of time. Again, we don't know the severity of the injury. We don't know if he is actually injured or anything to go with that. But the rumour mill is that it's a significant injury and that Meslier was going to be coming back into the squad, which does, from a cynical aspect, does make you think that what Robbie Evans was saying now seems to make a hell of a lot more sense. And because we've all said it as content creators, I said it in my last video that I did with regards to the optics of the club, is that no, there isn't, Tony, there isn't anything wrong with being 45. What I said in terms of the optics of the club, not getting rid of Mez seemed absolutely ridiculous. It just didn't make any sense. There were concrete offers out there for him. Obviously, we shut down the Turkey side of stuff from that club that will never be named. That was shut down, but there were other, like you said, Lorient and stuff like that. It seems madness for us to have not sold him.
Yep.
So that now, if you're putting 2 and 2 together and trying to make 4, makes you think, how dodgy is the Perry injury going to be then if we don't know? So it's a strange one, and it just, little blocks tend to fall into place, and I think this might be a block that's fallen into place a little bit.
Yeah, there's other interesting parts along with it as well. Leeds had a 25-man Premier League squad, as which Leeds had 24 players that looked like they were being registered heading into deadline day when Leeds tried to bring in Harry Wilson. Again, that registration period has now passed, so the club will have to have registered the 25, because people have been asked about Johnny Howson coming into the squad. Johnny Howson's not part of Leeds' 25-man squad, so that's off the table completely. Can't play. But if Meslier is to make the bench, then Leeds will have to register him in that 25-man, which means Leeds United squad is now back up to 25 players and is full. And Leeds have 4 goalkeepers, 1 right winger, 1 number 10. And as Joe Blackburn said to me earlier on, Leeds have the same amount of goalkeepers in that 25-man squad as centre-backs they have registered for a position that carries one person who usually plays most games. So it will be interesting to see when that injury to Lucas Perry happened, because if it has happened and it is coinciding with Meslier being part of the registration, and again, we won't find out till Thursday on the registration list if he has been registered. But if that is the case, then Robbie Evans clearly knew last week there was an issue with Lucas Perry and they decided to hang on to Mez. So, I mean, I'm not sure they needed to still do that. I mean, I wouldn't have had any issue with Carl Darlow going and goal. You've got Alex Cairns there. You've got Rory Mahadi from the under-21 side there, who, yes, a young goalkeeper, but he's a brilliant, that's the natural. He's a very good goalkeeper. Yeah, I mean, he's not perfect. He's 18. I mean, geez, he's 18 years of age. He doesn't have to be perfect at 18. He's not going to peak till he's 29. He's got loads of time, So it's interesting. But yeah, the cynicism in the back of my head's going, this happened last week and Robbie Evans knew about it. Hence that comment. But we'll see. If it is only minor, if it only happened last week, then that comment from Robbie Evans will still look really confusing come October. But that's where we are with that. But Paul, we've got 3 big games coming up for Leeds United. As I say, away to Fulham. It's a trip to London. Normally not good. We've actually got 3 p.m. kickoffs in a row on a Saturday, which
miracles,
unheard of.
Miracles have happened. Miracles have happened. That effigy
and our first of the season.
I know, but that effigy of Sean Harvey that I burnt a few days ago has obviously started to work a little bit. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, it is amazing that this is our first 3 p.m. kickoff.
And I mean, you look at these games, and if you're going back to what the club have said, like Parag Marathe wants us to establish ourselves as a Premier League side, which is what you should be trying to do. But to do that, you're going to have to upset a couple of established Premier League sides. You've got to be picking out throughout the season, like where are your wins coming from, where are your draws coming from, where's your 40 points going to come from. Fulham currently are 18th in the league table, so they're currently sitting in the relegation zone, which I think if you look into the results they've had more deeply, isn't an indictment of where they are as a club.
Yeah.
They have played Brighton, first game of the season, drew 1-1. Drew 1-1 at Manchester United in the second game and lost 2-0 to Chelsea. And you could argue, due to VAR in that game, they could have very easily won that match had VAR just not had an absolute disaster of a day. So that's not a gimme. But then you go away to Wolves, and that is one that Leeds should be targeting as 6 points this season, because they are currently rock bottom, three games, no wins. And that's a side that Leeds will look to be trying to make sure that they finish below. And this is the opportunity to start clocking points off them now while they're hurt. And the other side to this, Paul, is if Leeds can pick up a win in those 2 games, that will give Leeds 2 wins in their opening set of games, which would be the same amount of wins as Southampton had in the entirety of last season. Where's your head at coming into these games? And what would you realistically be looking to take from those 2 specifically? The first 2 away, Fulham away, and then followed by Wolves away, knowing our history in London as well.
Fulham would be minimum a draw. Would have to be minimum a draw, I think. The problem that we've got is the footballing gods do like a story, and the fact that Wilson is there, Muniz is still there, that type of story looks set to be able to be told again. But I would quite happily take a draw at that one. Quite happily take a draw. Minimum, it needs to be a draw. We can't be losing games, particularly not with teams that are going to be potentially in and around us. I think the Bournemouth game, a little bit more trickier. They have been decimated, but in turn of that, they have been very, very good from what I've seen so far. So again, minimum for me for that should be a draw. So minimum, I would say 2 points from that one. And then if you went, I'll mention it, but if you go into the Wolves, that's the one that you target for the 3 points. So I'd take 5 out of those 3. 5 points out of those 3, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm with Rob on this. I think 4 points is respectable. Again, considering you're a new side coming into the Premier League and the record that they have, that to me is acceptable. 5 points would be very, very good. That puts you on 9 for the start of the season in your first 6 games. That's a very strong start to the season for, again, a side that is tipped to go down, which we are, unfortunately. That's what the bookies all say. So it would be strong. Fulham, though, Paul, there's a lot of issues they potentially bring. You brought up the storytelling element of this with Muniz and Wilson. It's kind of built for a Wilson free kick in the 94th minute after Muniz has got an equaliser. It's kind of built for that. But they're a good side. They've got good players. They've got an established team. That team hasn't changed much over a couple of years. They've added some good players. Kevin is a player. If you haven't heard anything on Kevin, in Ben Locke and Lockie Leeds' scouting report, he did a piece on wingers. And Kevin was one that he covered. Described him as a very fun player. He's an exciting player. They brought in £85 million worth of wingers on deadline day. They're pretty much spending very little to nothing throughout the whole of the window. We spent just under 100 million on our entire squad this summer. So you're looking at levels there. But the speed and transitions are going to be important. The counter-attacking is going to be massive in this game. Fulham like to kind of sit back a little bit, absorb a bit of pressure, and then hit you on the break. Can you see Leeds getting dragged into a game where they feel maybe they've got more of a foothold in the game because they have more possession, and then get caught on a very quick counter-attack?
There is the chance for that to happen, but there was also the chance for that to happen against Newcastle. And the thing with Newcastle that was very, very good was that we didn't fall into that trap, but we were very, very good at covering in terms of for the potential outlay. Now, don't get me wrong, from a point of view of Fulham and their forward play Fulham probably would go into that match against us with a slightly better front four, front three, whatever it wants to be, than what Newcastle had in terms of what they put on the pitch and offer straight up. So, yeah, there's a potential for it, but I'm not overly concerned of us getting caught on the break too much, because our midfield is a lot harder to break down than probably what people give it credit for. So that from what I've seen so far in the matches, I mean, like looking at the game against Everton and the game against Newcastle, being at Ellen Road and watching the game against Newcastle, how hard that midfield worked for each other and really worked for each other. And then if you add into the fact that we've potentially got Ampadu to slot back into that game as well, we've got a Tanaka to slot back into that game as well, I'm okay with that. We just need to watch the forward line. But then off of the back of that, we've seen, take Arsenal out because Arsenal's an anomaly, but our defence is quite good in terms of being able to cover and lock. So I don't think it's... I think what will hinder us more is us making a naive mistake rather than them all out catching us on the break. I think it'll be a naive mistake that could potentially get punished. Either the defensive line moving forward too much and leaving a massive gap in behind, or just not picking up the right players at the right time, so kind of thing. So I think it could be that could be the issue, a mistake more than it being a tactical thing.
Yeah. And the tactics are going to be interesting, especially the lineup selection Daniel Farke looks to pick coming into the Fulham game, because as you've said, if Tanaka and Ampadu are back and available, Daniel Farke in the last 2 years, albeit with a different squad, has always put Ethan Ampadu straight back in when he has been available. Now, the last time he did that last year after his knee injury, it didn't go particularly well for a couple of weeks, and he'd taken back out for a bit until the sharpness got there. Do you think he risks that, or do you think he looks at the Newcastle game and goes, a very angry returning Ilya Groove, who's nearly had a punch up with his manager in Bulgaria and half of his football team? He comes back in and did very well against Newcastle. Longstaff definitely put a marker down in that game to be a regular starter. And Anton Stach, who currently is just ripping up trees in terms of statistics this season. 7 final third passes or chances created in the final third, 10 in total over the course of the season. He's leveled a record set by Emi Buendia of creating 3+ chances in his first 3 Premier League games ever, which is that. Also, Daniel Farke was manager both of them as well. So you've got that midfield 3 that did really well against Newcastle, but you've now got the temptation of Tanaka and Ampadu potentially coming back in there. Outside of the front option, because number 9 is a conversation to have as well, as it always is with Leeds United, who plays up top.
Yeah.
But in that 3 in the middle, because you talked about how good that midfield has been, where do you think, what would you do in that midfield 3? And then where do you think Farke will do? Because he'll always do what he'll always do. And we'll always want something a little bit different.
If it was me and I was picking the midfield 3, I would go Ampadu, Stach, Longstaff. That would be the 3 that I would choose for midfield, because Longstaff played out of it. Yes, I know it was playing against his own team, but that's who I would have, and he was superb in that game. Then that gives you then have the backup of bringing Gruev on if needs be, and also if you need a little bit more creativity, you can then bring Tanaka on at the same time as well. I'd be less likely to start Tanaka than I would do Ampadu. And I take on board your point about when he came back, Ampadu, after the last injury. But if you remember, he'd been out for 10 weeks or 10 games he'd missed before he came back. So there's a big difference of 10 games and that amount of weeks out to a couple of weeks. There's a difference. Your fitness doesn't drop off too much. If he's been working in the background, then he should be a lot better, I would have said. But yeah, for me, the big change would be I'd be taking Gruev out, putting Ampadu in, keep Stach, keep Longstaff. That would be my preferred. What I think he'll do, I think he'll go Stach. I think he'll go Stach, Gruev, Ampadu is what I think he'll do.
More defensive minded for that.
I think he'll go more defensive minded for the away game. But that's what I would like. Me personally, I think Longstaff has earned the right to get the start again. Just for me, in that, and captain comes in. I
agree. I think the shirt is there to be won or lost, and I don't think anybody in the Newcastle... Because, I mean, I want to see Jacobial play centre-half instead of Pascal Stroke. Now, I like Pascal Stroke. I really do. I think he's a lovely footballer. Really lovely footballer. But I worry about some of the defensive elements. At times, he can get rolled pretty easily. Sometimes he gets too close. You can drag him out of position if you get too close to him and then run away. He tends to follow you and he leaves spaces. So for me, I'd like a more experienced defender, more so than a ball-playing player coming out there for the back. But you're unlikely to see that until Pascal Struijk has an absolute nightmare in the game. And then maybe even then, Farke gives him another game to fix that before he then changes it. So he can be quite stubborn, but also if the results are going well, why would you change the winning formula? Why would you change a formula that's working for you? You've just come off Arsenal and Newcastle, 2 big sides in your first 3 games of the season. You managed to get 4 points out of that. If you can come into a Fulham and a Wolves and a Bournemouth looking at that going, well, these are ones where we should be definitely looking at taking more points. I think Bournemouth at home is an interesting one. We'll get to that in a second. There's a couple of returns coming up in the next couple of weeks as well that will be slightly different in the reaction from the fan base, I think is safe to say.
Probably.
But that'll have an impact as well. But you're looking at 20th place Wolves, who really didn't do well this summer at all, and bringing in players who are lost some of their best players, Aït-Nouri, Kuna. They've lost some serious talent in that side, haven't really replaced them. Strange decision being made by their current ownership in the last 2 seasons specifically. But you've got it for me. That has to be 3 points. Fulham, I think, a point away is a solid result there. I think that's it. But again, performance. The question mark will be around, that has been around, is how do Leeds create goals from open play? These will be the games where we'll see if Leeds can create goals from open play, because against Newcastle and Arsenal, you're probably not expecting an awful lot. We did create chances against Everton. We didn't score them, but we did create them. So we'll see. And then creating those chances, Paul, leads us on to the other question, which is going to be who puts the ball in the back of the net? Who do you start up top? Do you stick with Lucas Mecha, very impressive against Newcastle? Or do you push for a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who looked pretty decent when he came on and a lot more mobile in terms of getting in behind? Or do you go for Joe Pirou?
No, you don't go for Joe Pirou because he's not. It's not that in terms of a setup isn't right for him. The 4-3-3 setup doesn't work for him. So for me, I'm going up front. For me, it would be Calvert-Lewin. If he's fit enough to play, you put him on from the start. I think instantly his skill set was shown when he came onto the pitch. I just thought his touch, his leap, his spinning, his movement, dragging of players was very, very good. Don't get me wrong. I thought Nemecha was excellent against Newcastle. Really, really good out ball. Really, really good at taking the ball, turning, spinning the ball onto somebody else and moving the ball onto somebody else. I've got nothing bad to say about him, but we've brought Calvert-Lewin in for a reason. We need to give him the chance to shine. What I saw against Newcastle was enough. That spinning that he did with the ball that came through from, was it Bogle that played the ball through to him at the end? I think it was.
Oh, yeah, it was down the line. Yeah, he just hit it first time across
Bogle
the keeper.
played the ball through to him at the line and he hits it first time. He'd already set off running before Bogle had even got there, and Bogle knew where to place the ball. Inch perfect pass, but for Dan Burns, studs, it's a different outcome for that finish. Yeah, I'd start him, and I think he's up for it as well. And he's a slight guy, but he is strong. Got very pointy elbows, which I really, really like to see. But for me, it's Calvert-Lewin up front.
Us big number 9s always sharpen our elbows before games. Teddy Tone Monkey, no, not 4 points from Arsenal, Newcastle, 4 points from our first 3 games. I was talking about the last 2 games, but we came out that block of games with 4 points. We're now talking about the next block of games. That's what I meant there. Yeah, on the 2 strikers, for me, I was an old school number 9, big, tall, flick the ball on, hold up when you can. And I kind of like seeing Leeds with an old school number 9 and then Lucas Mecha. I thought he holds the ball up so well. He brings other players into the game. For me, I really like what I see of him. And then the impact you get from DCL off the bench, who's still quite a good hold-up player, very good hold-up player, but a different type of player, does like to get those runs in behind and will shoot from distance as well. So you get that slight difference of the 2 number 9s. I think we're in a good position. Again, I've said all week, I did an article for the website as well, where I said, if the medical team can do what Robbie Evans has said he thinks they can do with these 2 players, then we've got a pretty decent strike force and nothing to worry about. And we'll see if Noah Okafor can create the chances. But for me, I think he starts with Mecha because it's an away game and it's going to be trying to get the ball into him, hold it up, take the pressure off us, let us come out. I think you see Dominic Calvert-Lewin's minutes increase over the next couple of weeks. And I think by the time you get to Spurs, maybe he's in this position then where he's looking to start games. But I think you build up his minutes slowly over the next couple of weeks. But I wouldn't have a problem with either of the 2 of them starting, which is a nice thing to have for a change. Not going back to the Joseph Pirro, Bamford, Rodrigo. We now know either these two can do a very capable job for Leeds up front. The other conversation then is on the left-hand side, Paul. It comes to Noah Okafor. Had a bit of a knock. Farke decided not to risk him, which is probably a sensible decision going into the international break, give him more time. That's your creative outlet. That's the one we're going to be looking to try and do something, because, as we know, Dan James hasn't found his form particularly just yet.
No.
I'll be interested to see what Farke does on the right hand side. Does he go to Willie Gnonto, or does he put Dan James back in? But on the left hand side, you've got Noah Okafor, Jack Harrison, and Willie Gnonto as your choices there. What do you do on that side? And if it is Okafor, what are you looking for from him?
I know what I want to do. I know what won't happen. I would want him to play Okafor on the left hand side, and just purely because Dan James doesn't seem hugely on it at this moment in time. Nothing wrong with him, just doesn't seem hugely on it at this moment in time. I would love to see Gnonto on the right hand side. So I would put Okafor on the left, Gnonto on the right. Would be what I would like to do. And what I want to see from Okafor is I want to see what I've seen, what he did to us in the opening game. In the friendly game that we played, where he was causing constantly at Byram and cutting in, cutting out, cutting round all over the place. So I'd like to see him start. I don't think he will. I think he'll go Gnonto left, Dan James right is what he'll do. Dan James is his favourite child at this moment in time. So I think Dan James coming on later on in the game would be a great move because of his pace and his power. But for me, I think just that little mixing it up slightly would be quite nice. It won't happen, but that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, Tim, I got your first comment. You have it started. We're going to come back to it, but we'll cover it now. On the change in formation thing, it's an interesting conversation, in as it's a topical one for all of us to talk about.
Yeah.
The reality is 99.999% of managers don't change their system after this length of time. Daniel Farke has been playing a 4-3-3 all summer. It's a big departure from his 4-2-3-1 that he prefers to play, but he had a whole summer to work on it before he's put it into play in the Premier League. He is incredibly unlikely to change that system again. They just don't do it. So even, although I would say there's merits to it, specifically in certain games against the bigger boys like Arsenal, we saw that. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't do that. And you've got wing backs that can do that. Jack Harrison probably is a left wing back, probably his best position right now for Leeds, if he's to be on the park at all. Questionable. But outside of that, I don't think he changes the system at all for me. But yeah, I would like to see. I'd like to get a good look at Noah Okafor in a Leeds shirt now starting again. Surrounded by the better players. The Sheffield Wednesday game for me doesn't count for anybody. Same with Jacoby, same with Bournemouth. Doesn't matter. If Jacoby and Bournemouth playing side by side for the first time ever, in that match. And it's you're putting the second string out there with a couple of players you want to get a look at, and you're not getting a proper assessment of what they actually look like. But yeah, Teddy's saying, Jared doesn't look 6'3". I'm not 6'3". I'm 6'4". So I'm slightly taller than that. So I'm about the same height as Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Can vouch. I've cuddled him, and I was literally looking at his nipples. So he is.
You had two hands around me in the cup game. Yeah, you did. Won't talk about that, but it should have been a penalty. But that's not. I'm not bitter, and I'm not going to hang on to that. But yeah, Paul, let's move on and talk about the two home games.
Run up behind me and punch me in the back. That's absolutely fine, mate. It's a charity match. Don't forget about that.
It was a charity game. Yeah, I've already got in trouble about that today already. Probably should have been sent off. Anyway, two games coming up after that, Paul. So we got looking Fulham and Wolves. We're talking what, 4 points minimum?
Yeah.
Okay, I would agree with that as well. Then we've got two home games back to back. A 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday the 27th against Bournemouth. The return of Tyler Adams, assuming his biscuit legs haven't given up on him for this game, and then we have Spurs at home at 12:30 on the 4th of October, the return of Archie Gray. Two very different responses, and it's going to be interesting to see how Tyler Adams reacts to the welcome he's likely to get when he comes back to Ellen Road after threatening to sue the club. So Bournemouth, Paul, they're currently 7th in the table, played 3, 1-2, lost 1. They lost to Liverpool, they beat Wolves, they beat Spurs. So Spurs is a decent one. They even scored 2 goals against Liverpool, despite the fact that Liverpool put 4 past them.
Yeah.
Andoni Areola is an incredibly good manager, a very, very good coach. I like him. Sorry, Shane is also vouching for it. I'm a lanky bollocks. Proof he saw me. He screamed out his window of his van at me, to be completely clear. I was walking my dog. But that's beside the point. But yeah, you've got this. Come into that game against Bournemouth. Good side, good manager, good attacking team, very well organised, but it's in Elland Road. And then you've got Spurs, who have done very well in the transfer window. Remains to be seen if all those players have clicked just yet. But they've done very, very well. And it's 2 big games coming up. And then that's your last block of 4. And then you're into international breakdown again. So starting with Bournemouth, Paul, the return of Tyler Adams to Elland Road. What do you think, and where's your head at going into that game?
Well, they've scored 4 and they've conceded 4, but that's kind of misleading because the 4 that they conceded was in one game. So,
Since then, 2-1 nils.
Yeah, 2-1 nils. Evan Nielsen looks very, very good for them. Very, very good for them. I think this is where the crowd is really going to play an important part in that game. I think this is where the fans are really going to do their part in this game. I think we have a good chance. It's going to be tough. They are a very, very good team. Established, I think, is probably the fair. I think established is the fair word for it in terms of where they are. They're not unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination. So we've just got to be on our A game exactly like we were against Newcastle. We've got to play exactly the same as what we were against Newcastle, but with a little bit more creativity in the final third. Once the creativity in the final third for us starts to kick into gear a little bit more, which I think it will do, I genuinely think it will do, then I think what you'll see is us not carving teams open, but scoring a lot more clinical goals than and creating more and more chances overall. So for Bournemouth, I'd take a draw. Of course, I would take a draw. The important thing is not to lose the game. That's the big importance, not to lose the game. We haven't lost at home in ages now. It's such a long time. We need to maintain that. We need to keep that going. Home form is what's going to keep us up this season more than anything. And our ability to grind out results at home is going to be important. And I think the Bournemouth game is probably going to have to be a bit of a grind. We could nick it 1-0. We genuinely could nick it 1-0. But they are a very, very talented side.
We've talked all summer, Paul, between the two of us, over and back, text messages, voicemails, live streams. We've talked an awful lot about the football can be turgid this year as long as we get the points. So when you look at those games, I don't mind Leeds putting in an absolutely dirt performance, but not in that we played badly, but that it's just not been pretty, but it's been in their faces, aggressive, a bit of dirty football, maybe a little bit, and grind out those points along the way. I don't think anybody have a problem with that, would they?
No, I don't think so. I think the square ball made an interesting point, particularly Dan Moylan, where he said that he'd come to peace now with the fact that we are going to have to shithouse our way through games, specifically meaning how we felt last season when we were coming up against teams that just were absolutely dogged and turgid against us. We're at the end of that game going, it's absolutely appalling. What a bad game this is.
Yeah.
Yet the opposition fans are going, that really battled hard for that point. It's a really, really good thing that we've managed to do that. And that's going to be us this season. It's massively going to be us this season, and we just have to get used to that. And yeah, the dark arts is specifically a very, very interesting one. I think you're going to see that quite a lot with some of the players that we have in the team now, definitely. So yeah, I don't care if it's turgid. What matters this month, but what matters this season is results. I don't care if it's, Christ, this is awful, I'm going to have to hide behind my seat for the entire 90 minutes for that little 30 seconds of ecstasy. It's pretty much describing my sex life. But it's
you've overshared there.
Sorry, I've had too much sugar. It's just the way that it is at the moment. It's just what we're going to have to do.
Yeah. I mean, lots of people have said it in the chat there. From disciplined to effective, bit of dark arts. It's been kind of covered by everybody there, and I think it's really, really important because it's just about picking up points, specifically against the bigger sides. And I mean, Bournemouth are now a well-established Premier League side. They've got a very good manager. They've got a very good setup there. They've done well PSR and everything else. So they're an established side. They're a good play. They've got a good team. They've recycled their players quite well. They've lose players every year. They bring in very good replacements. They're very similar to Brighton in that perspective, as in they can sell players for big money and replace them with players you've never heard of. And all of a sudden, within a couple of weeks, you're like, Jesus, that player's just slotted straight in there and they look great. So they've got that about them. It won't be an easy game. I mean, Spurs is the interesting one because they're coming to Elland Road. Archie gets to come back, probably to a hero's reception and a very welcome back to Elland Road from the fan base. So that's a different prospect. Thomas Frank, who has a checkered track record against Leeds, and we all go back to mind the gap. We've got that in the past. That's still there. So That's probably the toughest one of all four. The last two are tough. You could go into an international break with 2 defeats, but they're 2 home games. And as you say, it's important to keep that winning feeling in Ellen Road going as long as you can. But also in general, it's important to keep the winning momentum from last season carrying on that as long as we can this season as well.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, I think if we're all going to be honest, the Tottenham game is what we would probably all consider a bit of a free hit, depending on how well we've done in the 3 leading before that. We've got to get to that game with a point, not with going into it thinking we just need to draw, but just with the pressure being taken off by getting a few good results before that game. That's what we have to be able to do. That'll only become apparent, you know, the night before the game. Is it one that we mustn't lose, or is it one that we have a bit of a free hit on and are allowed to go with? Because if we're all being honest, Arsenal results and performance thingy aside was a free hit. That's a free hit for us. That's fine. It's the other games that we need to focus on. It's the Wolves, it's the Bournemouths, it's the Fulhams. That's where we need to be looking at picking up some points and not having to worry too much about Spurs. But they could end up being very, very inconsistent like they were last season.
Yeah, they could. And again, a lot of new players. Takes time to settle in. Whole new strategy, whole new manager, whole new style. All that takes time. Scooby saying, but dirty isn't pretty. Oh, it can be though. It can be joyous to watch. Watching a really physical side batter a bunch of 11 lads around the park can be very enjoyable to watch if it's done the right way. So, yeah, I'm okay with Leeds, with the dirty version of Leeds. I'm okay with us being an excessively physical team. I'm okay with looking at us flying into tackles like we did with Longstaff against Gumares and Gruev against Tonali. I'm okay with us going in and making these big elite players who have these, big opinions of themselves, being humbled very early in a game with a very tough tackle. I think all of a sudden you can dictate a tempo of a game and you can set how a game is going to go very early on. I used to always say to my sides when you're going out to play a game, first 5 minutes, nail somebody. Just absolutely set out a marker straight away that we're not going to be easy to beat and we're going to be tough to turn over. So I'm okay with that if it has to be the case. Right, so Paul, let's go. 4 games. Fulham, Wolves, Bournemouth, Spurs. Give me your points total that you want to see Leeds come out with, and you can't say 3-4 wins because let's be realistic. But what do you think will happen?
If we continue on the trajectory that we've been doing, then I'm going to go for 6/7.
6 or that's a lot. That's a good haul from those 4 games. Possibly 2 wins in there as well.
My heart is telling me that there's 2 wins in there. Genuinely, it's telling me that there's 2 wins in there, or okay. one win and 3 draws.
I don't disagree, but I want to show everyone this. It's not your private text messages to me. Don't worry, you're okay.
Okay.
This is the bottom 4 last season, right? I'll bring it up here so everyone can see it clearly. We've got 1 win under our belt and a draw already, 4 points. Southampton 2 wins all last season. Ipswich 4 wins all last season. Leicester 6 wins all last season. Total season. So if Leeds were to come out of this run of 4 games with 2 wins, which might be tough, and we might be still in the early stage of the season of going, you never know. And then by this time, the second half of the season, we're like, well, that's 4 defeats. We'll see where our confidence level goes then. But if they were to get 1 draw in those, one win in those games, that moves Leeds to 2 wins. That ticks off Southampton. Boom, you're done inside the first couple of weeks of the season. Well done. If you can get 2 in there, all of a sudden you're looking at Ipswich and Leicester and thinking this is doable. Like, and again, in that group of games, you've had Newcastle and Arsenal and there, Bournemouth as well established, and Spurs. Like, I mean, they're not easy games, and if you can come out of that, and I like that, Paul, I like that confidence. And I'm targeting certain games this season, and I keep looking at Wolves, try and get a home and away win. There's 6 points. There's 2 wins there straight away. If you can get Fulham at home, beat them at home, draw away, there's another win there. There's 4 points coming from that. Mm-hmm. So it's where you can pick up these points. Richard's not that confident. He's saying 0 points. It's probably a very realistic approach, though, Richard. But we'll have to come back to that in a couple of weeks and see where we are. Telly is saying 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss in the next 3, which is 4 points. Again, that's for me, that's acceptable. That's not a bad haul.
Oh, no, it's 4. Sorry, I thought, it's 4. Sorry. Oh, God, I can't do maths.
They stopped giving 2 points for draws a long time ago, Paul.
Just behave.
So yeah, that's it. And Sai is saying 2 of those Leicester wins came in the last 5 games. Yeah, so let's get them out of the way early and at least give ourselves a bit of a chance. And again, if you're playing against like a Wolves, they're going to be down there with you. So beating them is a 6-pointer straight out of the gate because they've got currently, I think they've got 0 points, I believe. They've got nothing on the board just yet. They've got, 0. And Leeds are on 4 points. You get a win against them, add 3, that you've got a 7-point gap to Wolves inside 5-6 games.
They've scored 2 and they've conceded 8. So they're on a -6 goal difference. Their next game is against Newcastle. And Newcastle, Newcastle will be wanting to bounce back after that. So
they conceded 4 to Manchester City. We conceded 5 to Arsenal. So that equals that out. They beat Wolves, funnily enough, but the Wolves had 10 players. And then they got beaten but 3-2 by Everton. So they've not been ran off the park by anybody bar Man City. But again, the point being, they're expected to be down there. They've been down and around the relegation zone for the last couple of seasons. You're looking at those being those slightly more established clubs being the ones that you're going to replace in those positions and push them down the table a little bit there. Likes of West Ham, them, Burnley, I don't know, maybe even a Bournemouth. Aston Villa started weird as well. So you never know, West Ham. So you've got to be targeting these things. Free fall and saying 5 points. Yeah, 5 I think is really good. I think 5 is a positive one. Shane's saying 2 wins coming out of this as well. Danny Talk Leeds is saying 5 points out of the next 4 is a great point collection. It really is. And so early on, which again, gives that confidence to the side that they can actually push on and do something this year. We'll see where the goals come from. But I think, Paul, these next 3 games of these 4, these 3 specifically next coming up, will be the ones where we'll see if Leeds can, in fact, create chances. And if Robbie Evans' comments of, we've put together a really good squad, if those comments hold up, and if Daniel Farke doesn't necessarily need a more creative player.
Yeah, it's looking at who's going to step up, who's going to do the business in terms of being able to keep creating them goals. I think you're going to see, and yours and mine probably, I think it's fair to say our favourite player so far this season, Stach, is going to be, I think he's going to start to become more and more influential, more and more pivotal as these games come on. He's really starting to fall into the role really, really well. I think he's really warming up to the Premier League. So it would be nice to see him kind of being almost the not linchpin, but link between the defensive midfield to the attack and playing the balls. Because I mean, I've seen him play some stunning passes, like long ball passes into feet and stuff and things like that hopefully Okafor, who, by the way, if you don't follow him on Instagram, do, because what you get to see is him training and working and keeping himself fit and keeping himself sort of active and ready to go. Might need to have a conversation about the chain that he wears around his neck. It looks a bit stupid, but just he seems fit and fighting and ready to go. Somebody made a comment saying that that he cries off a little bit and he's not got the stones to play in the Premier League. And I said, being at the Newcastle game and watching him pace, and I mean, he was pacing up and down the line. He was desperate to get on. Absolutely desperate to get onto the pitch. So don't worry about his commitment. He's ready and properly raring to go, in my opinion.
As I said to people, I'm not ITK, but I did happen to know a man who's friends with his agent, and he was the one that gave us the information at the start after the AC Milan game, but the conversations being had and the fact that he was potentially looking at a move to Leeds. He's been talking about this for a while before that move happened. He's been talking about that crowd in the Aviva. He's been talking about the Leeds fan base an awful lot, and I can tell you he is very, very keen to be making an impact here as well. This is the move he's wanted, the Premier League, and if nothing else, even if he's looking at Leeds as a stepping stone, this is his opportunity to show people that he can do this. He did it before. He's had a couple of injuries in the last couple of years. Italy's a weird league. We all know that. Strange things. That players go over there with no form and all of a sudden they're being nominated for Ballon d'Or. Players leave there in great form, go to other leagues and struggle. So it can be a weird league. You never know what will happen. But we'll leave on this, Paul, before we go, because we're talking about chances created. I'll get the overlay off the screen for 2 seconds. And this might be where Leeds United's goals will come from this season. So if you look on the left-hand side, top 10 key passes in the Premier League so far this season, he is top of the pile with 7. Ahead of Bruno Fernandes, Mohamed Kudus, Cody Gakpo, some very good players there as well. And hopefully future Irish international Keenan Dewsbury Hall, if all things go well. Yeah, until he gets called up for the England squad. And then on the right-hand side, you've got the big chances created. Bruno Fernandes with 12. Anton Stach is there with 10. So for a player who was brought in to be a defensive-minded midfielder, he is probably our most creative player going forward, or at least a player who will look to take the most chances around the edge of the box. So that could bode very well for us, Paul.
Oh no, absolutely. I love everything about him. I love his absolute lunacy with his posts on Instagram.
It's great.
He just looks like he's really enjoying being here and really having a good time. It looks like he's settled in really well with the rest of the team. It looks like he's really settled into being in Leeds. I just like the guy. I just think he's brilliant. And just everything about him. He just, when you look at him, he shouldn't be a footballer. When you look at him, he looks more like a geography teacher. But he is, he's 6'4". He's an absolute athlete on the pitch. He can do in one step what would take you 3 steps to do, or my fat behind 5. So it's yeah. He glides across the pitch. He looks like he's having such a good time. He just everything about it just is. He's vocal. He's on it. Everything. I love him. I love everything about him. And 18 million quid. He's an absolute steal, as far as I'm concerned. He's so far, he's showing that he's an absolute steal.
He is, yeah. We might be deluded, Paul, but I do love being called deluded by random people. Absolutely. But you never know. You never know. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. We'll find out in 4 games time. We'll find out if it's 3, 5, 0 points from the next 4 games.
Just call us. It's absolutely fine. We can just be known as Happy Clappers United, because that's what apparently it's either Happy Clappers United or Bedwetters, which that's the one. It's the one that always makes me feel strange. I don't understand where the bedwetter thing came in. I mean, I stopped. To be fair, it was only last week I stopped wetting the bed, so it's just I feel, But being called a bedwetter just doesn't make any sense whatsoever at all, or deluded or whatever. At the end of the day, you go off what the eye test is and what your eyes and what my eyes have seen. It doesn't mean we're right. Doesn't mean we're wrong. What it is we're giving an opinion for everybody to kind of step in and say what they think, whether or not. There's no such thing as a wrong comment.
No, I know. And again, those who are saying the opposite, I would rather have someone come in and say, I disagree. This is what I think we'll get, rather than just an insult and then walk away. Because, stick your head above the parapet, mate. Give us an opinion. Tell us what you think we'll do in the next 4 games. And then at the end of the 4 games, we'll be looking ahead to the next 4 and we'll review these 4 games and say, well, where were we? Were we right? Were we wrong? We're still very early in the season. As I say, we're still probably in the honeymoon period of being back in the Premier League, outside of the nightmare against Arsenal. But outside of that, it's been encouraging. The window's closed now. No point moaning and bitching about that anymore. We've done that to death. Time to move on and focus on what's ahead of us now. And if we can, and I suppose what you're looking at here more than anything else is not necessarily just saying we think we will get these points, or these are the games where you're looking to take those points. Hopefully you can. But if you don't, then it's a different conversation in 4 weeks' time. We're looking at this going, okay, Leeds are in a bit of trouble here now. Where are these points and where the goal is going to come from? But until we get to that point, we don't know. And as Rob says, subjectivity doesn't exist in the football realm, but it does. But you know that, mate. Yeah, that's what Robert's getting at. But yeah, it doesn't have to be tribal. Doesn't have to be one side or the other. I hate tribalism. One thing in the entire world I hate more than anything else is tribalism. It's not necessarily always this. That's not necessarily always this. There's a hell of a lot of room. We've all lost the middle ground. It's either on fire or amazing. Yeah. There is middle ground in that as well. So let's settle in and see how we go. Peter saying 2-0 this weekend. We'll see how we go. There will be a preview out before the weekend's game as well. You can keep an eye out for that. More of a warm-up than a preview. And then we will also have Adam Pope in tomorrow evening on the channel as a pre-record or video that will go out looking ahead to the season and getting his opinion on what's gone on with Robbie Evans, the conversations, the transfer window, and the games ahead coming up for Leeds United. So we'll see how we go. Folks, have a great rest of your day. Paul, anything going on at your channel do you want to let everyone know about?
Yeah, no, just the usual. I've done an opinion piece that went out yesterday morning, and that was just on optics and how the optics of the board looks to the fans, and just giving my sort of wherewithal with that. So if you want to go and check that out, please do. I'd really, really appreciate it. I am now 90. That's not right. I am now 80. Hang on, 84 subscribers away from 3,000. So it's getting closer. It's getting closer. But yeah, it's nearly there. But yeah, go check that out. That's what it's been at the moment. It's just been because of the international break. It's content's hard to come by, and then you try and Me doing opinion piece is a bit weird because you kind of put your head above the parapet for people to turn around and go, "Oh, you're an idiot." But it is what it is. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough time of the year. We'll have more news on some other updates on the channel. We are launching a website. It's coming soon. It's up there and it's available right now, but it's not finished. So there are some placeholders in place there, but you can check it out if you want to at the leadsview.ie.
Go and check it out. It does look really, really good. It looks
it's getting there. The article piece has just been, we've got some written content there as well. All our videos are located there as well. All of our audio feeds as well are all located within one place. So you've got an easy place. It's the leadsview.ie if you want to check that out. Again, ignore the placeholders on the top. There's one story there labeled if, and that's my preview for the entire season, an article that I've written. So you can check that out if you want to. There'll be more guest writers over the course of the year as well. We'll leave it at that, folks. Massive thank you, as always, for supporting this channel. Today's news is available if you want to go check that out. I'd appreciate that. And outside of that, go check out Paul at the Leeds Therapy. And I'll be back tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. I'll talk to you then. Enjoy the rest of your evening. See ya.